Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Conservative Corner. A little bit different show today. My name is Ross Berry. I'm one of the state representatives for Goffstown NH, and I'm sitting here in the host seat. And why am I sitting in the host seat today, Shannon?
Because someone needs to interview me. I'm gonna be running for state rep.
So we got a big announcement. Shannon is joining us, hopefully, in Concord. And I'm super excited about this. You were actually one of the very first people when I started running to reach out to me. And when I saw you I found out because you were walking in the Wear Parade, and I was like, what are these signs doing with Shannon's name on them? And I thought, oh my God, is she primarying me? I was like, what did I do? But I'm super excited that you decided to make this leap. So let's start off with a little role reversal. So who are you? Why are you running? How long have you lived here? Let's do it all. So let's start off with, how long have you lived in Goffstown?
I have lived in Goffstown since 2017, so for 8 years now. Mm-hmm. I have lived in New Hampshire, so by the time I file in 26, I will have lived in New Hampshire for 20 years.
20 years. So
20 years.
New to the state.
Very new to the state, still learning the ins and outs.
So tell us a little about yourself. So married, kids, what's the daily life of the non-political life of Shannon?
Chaos coordinator. So let's see, I'm married. I've been married for almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. My husband's from New Hampshire, born and bred. I am from Western Massachusetts, out in the Berkshires. We do not pa-ka-ka in the yard in Western Mass. We're just wicked cool out there. So I moved here about 20 years ago. We got married. I have 2 kids. Mm-hmm. One is actually graduating Goffstown High School this year, and I have a son in a charter school. We are homesteaders. Mm-hmm. We're all about self-sustainability. So we have chickens, we have a small orchard, gardens. I'm an avid DIYer. Mm-hmm. Love being outside, love New England.
Yeah, it's a great place to do it, and obviously, you and I have the chicken connection.
Oh yeah.
I've increased my chicken stock as of late. I don't know if I've told you that.
No, I did not know that yet.
That's right. Yeah, I got more. So you've been involved in politics for a couple of years now, really actively, and definitely at least I know over the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So what was the impetus for this? I'm going to run. I'm going to put myself there. I'm going to do this because Goffstown's not necessarily an easy place to get elected in.
No, it is not. So I was brought up with the mindset that everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone can have an opinion. You can even complain kind of about the job somebody is doing with something, but you need to be prepared to lend your skills, lend your abilities to help come up with solutions for the problems that you see. So running for New Hampshire state legislator is tough because, as you know, people rake in the dough as a state representative with their $100 a year and some mileage. So you have to be in a position with your family financially to devote the time to the State House and to your community. So I finally felt like with a daughter graduating, my other son entering high school, my husband's doing great at his job, that this was kind of the perfect time to give back to my community, give back to my state, get out from behind the keyboard complaints and try and lend my abilities to fixing some of the problems.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a very good point there is, it's really easy to be behind the keyboard and complain, and it's really hard to actually go and try to affect the change that you want to see. Mm-hmm. So, in New Hampshire, House is very unique for all state legislators in the country, right? Anyone can file any bill, every bill gets a hearing, every bill gets a vote. Sometimes that works out really well.
Yeah.
Sometimes not so much.
But
so what would be your areas of interest if you were to get elected? What's the committee that you're going to ask the speaker to put you on?
Oh man, that's tough because there's so many things I'm passionate about. It's hard because I'm also not picky. I'm one of those people that I like to just roll my sleeves up, get in there and do what needs to be done and help where help is needed. But the things that I'm personally passionate about would be the Health and Human Services Committee. I've spent the past 23 years kind of in the mental health field and just all aspects of that and seen firsthand how, New Hampshire, we're lacking really big in the mental health area. And I know Health and Human Services helps affect some of the change there. Closer to home, I believe it's the Environment and Agriculture.
Environmental ag, yeah.
Okay.
So we just call it ag, but yeah.
Okay. I don't know the lingo yet, but for me, my family has a small farm stand. And multiple occasions, we have had run-ins with town zoning. We have had run-ins with the state based on red tape and regulations. They treat farm stands, like small little homesteaders, like big box stores. Like they treat the same regulation for my little farm stand made of pallets has the same regulation as Whole Foods. So it makes it really complicated for people in their community to give back to other members of the community. When all you're trying to do is help your neighbor out, but you need the $1,000 permit to do X, Y, and Z. So,
and we've seen a little bit of that, right? Like in Manchester with the infamous
Picklegate.
Picklegate, right?
Picklegate.
You know, don't pick all the infamous puns.
Don't tread on my
don't tread on my pickle. I think I put one out there of like the Boston Pickle Party where they're throwing the pickles into the harbor. So that was obviously a run-in with city government. So what was your take on that as a homesteader? Somebody have you done any pickling?
So I have studied New Hampshire homestead law very extensively for the sheer fact, like we sell jam, and my first personal run-in, actually how I kind of started getting involved locally, we sell cold brew and Southern sweet tea, true Southern sweet tea at our farm stand, and it was reported to the state. Now I was selling it just in like mason jars, like a lid on it, it's in a refrigerator, good to go. Well, apparently,
how dare you?
I know, right? Well, apparently, my 5 jars of beverages in this small,
which you're probably losing money on.
Right? It's like a college-sized fridge on the side of the road over like in a hut. Okay. Apparently, because I do not have a permit, I was going to be fined $1,000 a day for not being in compliance with New Hampshire beverage laws.
It's always fun. They always go right to the $1,000 a day fine. It's like that's like the New Hampshire lock, stock, and barrel fine is $1,000 a day, and I've often dreamed like, what if it just wasn't a day? What if it was like $1,000 and you just pay it and move on?
Yeah. Well, I definitely couldn't sell that much cold brew.
Or from the town?
That was from the state.
Yeah. Oh,
that was from the state. Somebody in my community who shall not be named saw a Facebook post where I was like, oh, fresh cold brew down at the stand. Reported to the state. I received a letter. So I was like, oh, I'm not messing with this. And I put a Facebook post.
It's scary. It's scary when they reach out to you. Yeah,
I'm like, I can't offer the city board. Really sorry. And our state rep, Joe Alexander, never met him. I know I checked his name on a box at one point, but I never met him. He messaged me. He's like, can you send me a copy of the letter?
Yeah.
And this was like at 11 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock.
Which, by the way, for Joe is pretty early. Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
he woke up to do that.
Well, he was in the state house. He's like, I'm actually here, blah, blah, blah. Messages me. He's like, okay, so do you have like a pitcher? Like a picture? He's like, no, like a pitcher, drink pitcher. I'm like, yeah. He goes, just put it in there. Like, what do you mean? He goes, because you have a lid on the jar.
Because you have a lid on the jar. Classic.
Because there's a lid on the jar. Yeah. So packaging it in my house with a lid, sanitary, $1,000 fine. Putting it in a gallon pitcher, like when you sell lemonade on the side of the road that people just open and close at will. Yeah. Totally fine.
Where anybody can
do whatever they want to that.
Yeah, I remember we saw a bill like this for not for your situation, but we saw a bill to basically make it to where towns couldn't regulate the selling of lemonade by children. No. And I will tell you, people lost their minds over that bill. It was amazing, like the bureaucratic creatures that came out to try to stop that. And it's kind of like a slice of Americana is selling lemonade by the side of the road.
It's like every kid's first like summer project. They want to get the video game or this or that. They're going on vacation. They want to save money and like let them some country time mixed in a jar. Cut them some slack.
And I always for me personally, I always it kind of drives my wife a little crazy sometimes because whenever I see it, I stop. And I tell half the time I don't even drink it because I don't really drink the sugary beverages. I'm not saying I'm Mr. Health guy, like look at me. No. But I don't drink the sugary beverages. And my wife's always like, well, why do you? I was like, because they're out there and they're selling it, and I want these kids to get a taste of entrepreneurship because that's how you start the bug going. That's how you get the self-sufficiency going. 100%. And it's classic that government would come in and try to squash that down. They don't. It's almost like they don't want you to be self-sufficient. Shocking.
Exactly. So. Agricultural, environmental, they do a lot of stuff with the farms and whatnot. So that would be interesting to me. And then county and municipal government would be...
Municipal and county, yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one. I have a lot of run-ins over there.
I've been struggling with our local community and our local officials and how things are being done. And I am 100% all about local control. I think we need to preserve that. I think that's something that makes New Hampshire really special. But at the same time, I think there need to be guardrails. I don't know if that's an oxymoron in a sense, but there need to be some guardrails because we can't always have the people we want in running our towns and making the decisions. And sometimes people go off the rails. Just plain and simple, they just go off the rails. And I don't know that they do it intentionally, but at the end of the day, if there aren't guardrails in place, you end up with a lot of what we have going on in Goffstown right now.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because I've kind of staked out a middle ground on the local control issue, and there's definitely, it's kind of amazing how that issue cuts across all ideological spectrums. Like I've met Liberty people who are big time into local control, and it kind of like stuns me because it's like, well, you're the anti-government people, and here you are, pushing local government. But I think there's. For me personally, what I always try to do is like the individual should usually come first. Doesn't mean always, by the way. Like there's definitely community interests.
Yes.
But that's where I think when you see this local control debate happening, that there's some disingenuous from people from the right where they're like, well, it's a boot on your neck from Concord or it's a boot on your neck from Town Hall, and I'm over here like, well, what if it's like no boot on your neck? I'm on team no boot.
Yes.
So
I can agree to that, and I feel like having like. I was talking to you beforehand, and this is a perfect example. You're talking about legislative intent.
Yeah.
So the Goffstown voters passed a budget. We're the legislative body. On that day, we make the decision, and we passed a budget that cut the stipends for the select board, for the school board. My husband originally put forward those motions to make that happen, and then the rest of the board was like, if you cut one, you cut them all. Yeah. They were trying to be fair, and I totally respect that. So we voted a zero budget. That line item is zero. And according to RSA 3210, if the legislative body, i.e. the town, votes on that budget, then you can't transfer money into that, plain and simple. So I've been going back and forth with our town administrator, and I'm getting an interesting story about, well, it's actually under a sub-account. And sub-accounts don't, so kind of where I'm at with it is like, all right, but if you want local control, the people showed up in March and they said, this is what we want. Yeah. But the local body, the select board, is saying, well, there's this gray area we can operate in to still do what we want. So I feel like if you have the right guardrails in place to appoint the select board or a budget committee or whoever, can't go off the rails, and you're forced to help the will of the people or give the people what they voted for.
Yeah, and you see this all. It's not just a Goffstown issue.
Oh,
like
no.
You see this across the state with, it's and you are, to the broader argument, you are stuck in this kind of quandary of, we don't want one size fits all from Concord.
Nope.
But conversely, the smaller and more minutia this stuff is, the easier it is to corrupt it.
Yes.
So at the local level, it's actually easier to corrupt the local level than it is in Concord. And you kind of like watch this across the board. And I've actually written a pretty extensive op-ed about, because I'm an election law guy, about how these local elections, because they're so low turnout,
nobody shows up.
And you don't actually get, the title of the op-ed is it's not exactly hidden. It's when is local control not really local control, and it's not really local control when you have 15% turnout and 20% turnout. So on the election law side, that's something I'm very interested in doing, is trying to get that turnout up. Yeah. And then by the way, like the local control people should be supportive of me in doing that, because it will invalidate the argument that people in Concord are making, which is, well, nobody's voting in these local elections, so you can't really claim that it's the will of the people.
I was gonna say, if everyone shows up, it's like, then the system's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Correct.
We have to do our part and show up and check the boxes.
If you have 50-60% turnout in a town election and that town votes for a tax increase, I'm not Mr. Tax Increase guy. I don't like tax increases.
But if that's what they voted for,
it's a lot more easy. It's a lot easier pill to swallow when it's like, okay, well, this is actually the will of the people, versus when it's like in Claremont, they had a 9%, like with their disaster right now, they had a 9% turnout in their last school election.
Saw that.
9% turnout.
9%. And then it was like, it's like 34 of the people who showed up didn't even vote on the budget, and I'm like,
they just
you were there and you didn't check the box.
So it's these sort of things are always. Anyways, we're going back to you here.
Yeah.
So you. Municipal and county, maybe ag, but if you wanted to file, like if you were filing your first bill, and by the way, if you win, you're going to get people telling you, oh, don't file bills as a freshman.
I've heard that.
File bills as a freshman.
Okay.
If you file whatever.
Just jump in the deep end of the pool.
Run on what you want to run on. File what you want to file on. Don't let somebody who's been there longer than you tell you not to do something. That's not how the New Hampshire House works.
Good.
The New Hampshire House is like the great equalizer. For better or for worse, it is the great equalizer. So you get there, you win. We're all excited. What is the bill that you are filing with? What's like agenda item number 1 for you?
It would be that tax cap bill.
The tax cap bill?
Make it through.
Yeah.
So I actually was the person who proposed a warrant article a couple years ago in town for tax cap. That ended in like a 7-hour deliberative.
Yeah.
That
a deeply broken process, by the way.
We'll
come back to
that's
that.
a whole other story. But yeah, so I had actually proposed a tax cap warrant article. I got crucified for it by a lot of people.
Oh yeah, because you hate the schools, you hate the town.
Oh, yeah,
you want people to starve.
I want to dismantle everything. Didn't
okay.
you know?
Okay,
I don't. No.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the seemingly 10% every year property tax increase. It has nothing to do with that.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with the fact that
we're taxing people out of their homes. You can't afford to feed your family. No, it has nothing to do with that. No, it's because
my son gets a world-class education for $9,400 at a charter school, but my daughter is at 40 whatever percent proficiency at Goffstown High School for $21,000. So, that's a whole other can of worms. But I filed the tax cap warrant article. I was so incredibly excited this past legislative term when that bill came through the House. I was like, oh, yes, people heard me. And then it just didn't end up.
Yeah, it's wild.
It didn't come to fruition. I would champion that till my heart's content.
I think we might get some movement on that this next session because I think these local elections have drawn a lot of interest that they didn't used to draw, and I think a lot of these Republicans, in particular, it was a wild world because you had I shouldn't say Republicans, you had 15 to 20 Republicans, which is enough to kill a Republican majority.
Oh yeah.
Remember, there's 220 of us, right? So, but if 20 of us defect, that's it. That's it. We're done. And you had these 20 or so Republicans that were local control, and it's you were standing up for taxes. You are a Republican saying, no, it's okay. It's okay that we raise your property taxes, and it's not okay.
No, it's not.
And when you ask the regular voters, do you think your property taxes should be capped every year? The answer is, well, of course. Right, but you see the point, because we did this in Ware, right, and Ware actually had some of the best results in the state.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't get the 60%, but we got I think we may have been the highest or the second highest in the state in terms of actually getting a tax cap in. But you do run up against headwinds, and you do run up against kind of the name calling and the attacks. But if you're going to be in politics, what you're talking about,
kind of what it is.
You just kind of got to get used to it, and you can't be in this world and take everything personally. But I'm glad that's an awesome thing you're a champion. That's something that I hope you don't get to do that because I hope we do it before
it would be great if I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out what I was going to do. I would gladly accept that because it would save me some money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been absolutely wild. Is there anything coming up in Concord that you've been following? 'Cause I know that you follow closely.
Oh yeah.
So is there anything coming up in Concord this next year this next session, not for you, but that you want? I guess as your state rep, what do you want me to go do? No, what are you following?
I'm following a lot of the housing bills.
Yeah. The touchy subject, by the way.
Yes, I'm kind of a semi-enemy of the housing people, just a little bit. Mainly because I don't necessarily believe we have a housing crisis. I believe we have a housing affordability crisis. I bought my home 8 years ago for $274. It's valued at over $585 right now.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah,
I put a new roof on.
Yeah.
That doesn't equate to that much equity in my property. So there's definitely a housing affordability crisis, and I don't necessarily know that's something the state can fix.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's interest rates, right? You've got these persistent, and the president's been on this with the Fed, and that's a whole different subject that will never be a Concord problem. But you do have this, these pressures from these high interest rates that the Fed just will not lower.
No.
And you've kind of bottomed out all the potential buyers. And that's creating a real problem, and
well, even if I wanted to move out of Goffstown, which I don't, I love where I live. Even if I wanted to move, I have a 2% interest rate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why am I going to move somewhere with a 7% interest rate? That's part of the affordability problems. You have people who are ready to downsize, who are ready to move on, and they can't afford to. So there were actually some housing bills I really did support and champion. I'm super pumped about the ADU bill.
Yeah. I think I was a co-sponsor of that.
I think you were too.
Yeah.
I have a neurodivergent son, and he is going to go out in the world in all that wonderfulness and have a job and get married. But I mean, since this kid could talk, he's told us he's getting married, he's living at home. That's his plan. That is his long-term goal. He's not going to marry someone if they don't want to come live on our homestead.
Yeah.
I don't want him in my house after he's 21. So having the ability to have like an ADU, so that as he's adjusting and getting out into the world, that would make my life a million times easier. My parents are aging. My husband's parents are aging. It would just make life so much easier to not have that red tape in the way. So there were some housing bills I 100% supported. So like I'm also kind of like an enemy of like the people over here that are like, no housing bills. I'm like, but there's some that are good. Like there's some we do need. I just don't think we need all of them.
Well, and that's actually kind of the path that I took. I get lumped, like for whatever reason, I get lumped in with the people that are like for all the housing bills. I actually voted against some of them.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't notice that from online. They're like, Barry votes for all. It's like, no, actually, like really not involved in that at all. Nope. But you know, I was on the ADU bill because I think that's like for me, it was what you said. It was like my parents are they're gonna get older. You know, my parents they're still back in Texas, and you know, if I'm gonna, you know, God forbid, you know, one of them passes and I need to bring one of them up here. Like, well, I can't have them, you know, I can't have them down the road. They really need to be on the property with me. But to your point, I don't really want them in my house.
No, and they probably don't want to give up their independence either. Yeah. Like, they want the independence.
Yeah.
And, like, my son wants his independence. But at the same time, there's, like, a level that you still kind of, like, need the training wheels. And that's where I feel like this ADU bill, like, is going to help a lot of families.
They're 800 square feet. Like, if people were acting like these things were going to be, you know, 5-story buildings. And it's, you know, the reality is the places that can actually build them, you're probably not even going to see them.
No. Oh, no.
You know,
no. Like my property, you wouldn't notice it. It would be like almost in the woods. You wouldn't notice it.
It's kind of been a wild, you know, that's been a really touchy and kind of wild issue in Concord. I don't think you'll see a lot of that same level of deregulations that we were doing, that the House and the Senate was doing. I think you're going to see a lot of that come to an end because part of it is, and I was discussing with some of the very pro housing people, that it's like, you know, guys, we've done a lot here. We need to see what the effects are. We can't, because like housing, it's not like you're going to pass a piece of legislation then magically everybody's going to afford a house. You know, you have to kind of like walk that down. So, you know, I'm kind of excited to see that. So anything else you would look at?
I don't know if that would necessarily be coming through the House, but I'm interested to see how the gender affirming care bills fare. I know like the Scarametti case and all that happened, so like there's a lot of legislative leg for what just recently passed with the no top surgery and the no hormones and all that stuff. I know that there's like a really big legal leg for that to stand on, but I'm interested to kind of see how it all plays out because I've seen several articles where families are like, and we've sold and we've moved because New Hampshire doesn't want our kids. I'm like, I think your kid's really cute. I think your kid's really sweet. Like, I just think we need to help your child in a different way. I have no ill will towards anybody. And I think that's the only thing I struggle with the House. I'm getting better at not letting these things bother me, but I am friends with the state representative that put forth and sponsored those bills. And the trail of mud that she was dragged through, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, to know her heart and to know how much she cares about people, all people, I was like...
She doesn't have a mean bone in her body.
No. Oh, my word, no. Like, no. Yes. Like, you're hitting the nail on the head with that. And it's like, to see the way people in the community treated her, even people not in our community, some of the letters she's gotten in the mail wishing death and all this stuff, I'm just like, is this really how people think we should be doing things? So I'm interested to see how it plays out because it's such a polarizing issue.
Yeah, but it's very, here's the thing, is it is polarizing. You're right in the sense that it does draw people to one side or the other, but the side that we are on happens to be much larger.
Yeah.
And I think people really misinterpret the point of, like, I tell people all the time, I'm pretty accepting of everybody. And honestly,
I'm not perfect.
It's kind of weird. I actually just like kind of don't care. Like, cause like
do you?
You do you. Just don't like, Bob, don't like, I don't know, just don't force it on me. I don't care. But the problem is, like, when they're going after the kids, and there is this, it sounds like a very tinfoil hat, but there is this very, like, coordinated effort to go after children with this this sort of stuff. And like, so you see some of it come out in the news about like what they're doing in the schools with this group called New Hampshire Outright. And it's connected a lot to taxpayer funding, and it's
100%.
it's like, and I know it sounds like oh, like it's insane, but like when you actually like look at the documents and everything, it's all there, and it's very scary. And I think with a lot, New Hampshire is not a socially conservative state by any stretch.
No.
We're
a very accepting state of everybody.
I think it was the first state to legalize gay marriage, or like one of the first three. This is not like this is not Alabama, right, in terms of social issues in New Hampshire. But I was talking with a friend of mine, a Democrat friend of mine in Concord, and she was kind of this was right after the election, and she was like shocked that they had lost. And I told her, I was like, well, it should be a clue to you that if Republicans in New Hampshire are able to run on a social issues platform, that you guys are like way off base. Yeah. And it was you had like the silence at the end of the phone, and she was like, maybe onto something there, because they've just really like tracked, and you're seeing it like in Concord, you're seeing this like really far track to the left on the other side, and it's really. The Republicans have moved a little bit to the right, but not nearly as much as the Democrats have moved to the left. And you're seeing that sort of combativeness in Concord that you didn't used to see. But it is interesting when you're in Concord because you have to work with the other side. So and I believe it or not, like even though I have a partisan hat on all the time, I chair the most partisan committee in the House. Like I do actually work with the other side. So what would be like? Obviously, I would take it that you'd be okay working with the other side. But like, what would be your tactics for working with the other side? Because sometimes it can be a little hostile.
I think one of the best things like I've learned, I don't think I learned it very well when I was younger. I think as an adult and having kids and dealing with a lot of stuff with mental health, I have learned that the best thing you can do, especially with someone who doesn't agree with you, is just listen. You don't even have to agree. But sometimes the best thing you can do and all people are looking for you to do is hear them. They don't necessarily need a solution. They don't need you to jump on their side. They just want to be heard. And I found that to be very true in talking with people. We just had the National Night Out here at the high school. And there were several people who came up because we had we have a local conservative PAC. And we were there. We had our signs up and I was free sweet tea, whole 9 yards. And there were a couple of people who came up and they're like, well, I'm not a conservative. Like, so I can't join, like, we had a raffle. I'm like, so? Like, what issues matter to you? Yeah. Like, what if you're not conservative, that's fine, but what issues matter to you? And they were, like, completely taken aback that a conservative that's supposedly supposed to be, like, what is it? We're fascists?
We're fascists,
we're fascists? Yeah. There's a bunch of...
Just like Hitler.
Yes.
It's just like Hitler.
Just like Hitler. Yeah. Everyone has this view. Even, like, conservatives have a view of liberal people. And it's like... Can we just put the assumptions aside? Because when we sit down and have a conversation, I think people, it's corny, but we really have a lot more in common than we do that divides us. So I think the best thing we can do is just listen.
Yeah, and I think that I think that would serve you well in Concord. It does help to. It never hurts to have friends on the other side if you can have them. There's just sometimes where we're never going to come together.
Nope.
But I think that's I think listening, and not just in Concord, but also it's a great way to get elected. I give you an example. A little advice while we're here is in my old district back in Manchester. I had one of the most competitive seats in the state. Like now I don't. I've got a very Republican-leaning seat. It's very nice, but I still work. But I used to have to struggle to win. And I was sitting at the polls on Election Day. So it was a Democrat activist to my left, myself, and to my right was actually my opponent. And I knew him. We were always friendly to each other. We laugh and have a good time, but we weren't. Our voting patterns looked
different.
They were very different. And so to the left was a guy I knew quite well as a Democrat activist. And he had sent me a lot of emails, and they were always kind of like off the wall ideas, like, oh, we should ban, you want to ban plastic bags or put a bottle deposit tax on, right? And I would always respond, and I would always tell him no, right? And I'd always respond, but he was so he goes in to vote, and he's like, well, Ross, can you hold your sign? I was like, well, brother, I can't hold your sign because like somebody's gonna take a picture of me holding signs. I was like, but I will hold your spot for you. Like, so I won't let anybody come take your spot.
Yep.
And but
can be nice, can be respectful.
Yeah, because it was like where it was very tight. I was like, I will hold your spot for you. So he goes and votes, comes back, and he says, he's like, well, Ross, I just want to let you know, I just went and voted for you. Now remember, my opponent's right next to me, and he's holding my opponent's sign. And I was like, I'm sorry to hear that, but like, may I ask why?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you responded to every email that I sent you. And I was like, but I always told you no. He's like, but yes, but you were the only one who responded. My opponent was a rep at the time. So he was sending it to him too, that he wasn't responding. So that's one of the things that I'd like to partner you is, listening and responding. And one of the things that I try really hard to as a state rep is, and you'll see this, you'll get a lot of surveys, you'll get a lot of other things. I try to do as much of it as I can because people do notice, and it does make a difference.
It does.
And they do ask tough questions in some of these things, but I think that's a big part of it. And I think your skills will work out well for you. And one of the things I'm excited about you is you're a younger person, especially in the New Hampshire House.
I'm in my 40s, but I feel...
In 40s, that will make you, in the New Hampshire, a spring chicken.
All right.
But, I think like you are kind of like the new-aged conservative, right? Okay. Like young mom, homesteader, doing that, the court of like it's this new breed of conservatism, because we're not the party of... the country club anymore, right?
No. Oh gosh, no.
Because your upbringing's, my understanding is like way more blue collar, right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what was it like? Because I assume you weren't going yachting on the weekends.
We lived in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like when I say we lived out in the Berkshires, I mean, my parents just got cable lines and broadband internet access on their road in 2017.
Yeah.
So my entire childhood, we had like the rotary dial antenna. We got 2 channels that came in with snow. It was PBS. Yeah. It's like Masterpiece Theater. And I think like 1 news channel, and my parents never really watched the news. I grew up with like this is what's on the dinner table, you're gonna eat it, because that's what we can afford. My dad worked nights, my mom worked, go outside. I was a kid of the 80s too. Yeah. So it was like,
I was alive for 15 days in the 80s,
okay,
just so we're on the same page.
The hard part is like, I'm a kid of the 80s, so a lot of parents didn't have a ton of money back then. Like there was recessions and all that stuff, but our parents had this way of not necessarily letting it affect us. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have known we were poor. Like I wore hand-me-downs, but they were my sister's clothes. And I thought my sister was cool, and so like it didn't. I can't wait till she passes that down to me. We may not have had a lot of money, but my parents never treated our life as though we didn't have a lot of money. We had fun. So I think if I can bring that forward to people, that would be awesome, because times are really tight for a lot of people. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like a stereotype. It doesn't have to define who you are. So I think it's important that people know that.
No, I think it is too. And with this kind of new Republican Party that, the party is, I've been a Republican my whole life, I'd say. Like I've kind of seen, I've watched this go from Mitt Romney to the party of Mitt Romney to Donald Trump in my lifetime. And it is a wild juxtaposition. And, I grew up like watching NASCAR. I still watch NASCAR, right? I was always living in these two worlds of, my parents took me out of public school and put me into private school. So I had public school initially, and then I finished with private school. And so I got to, but we were also not rich. Yep. My dad lost his job, so I kind of understood. I'd like seen it all, and I was actually one of the things I'm super excited about is like this new era of conservatives like yourself that are coming forward that I actually like more identify with. Yes. Because I've never fit in with the country club crowd.
No, neither have I. I'm sorry, I'm covered in tattoos. Like I got piercings. I like to hang out and like lay in the sun and the grass, and like I've earthed and like ground myself with earthing and all that stuff. Like I don't want to go spend $1,000 on a golf club membership to whack a ball. I don't want to do that.
I have never gone golfing in my life.
Neither have I.
I don't plan on starting.
I'm all set. I like mini golf.
That's mini golf's fun. Yeah, it's cheap too. It's nice. It's cheap.
I was gonna say, especially if you catch a coupon like through the windmill. Yeah. No, I definitely I will own, because it's gonna come out eventually, because I will own. I have not always been a conservative. Yeah. My parents are actually. They would say they're independent, they're registered independent, but I definitely view my parents as more liberal, which is fine. The first time I ever voted was actually for Obama.
It's okay. We won't hold it
But
against
I'll be
you.
honest with you, what it was is I had just had my daughter, and I'd never really been interested in politics, and there was something about Obama. He was so charismatic, and he had a way of reaching the millennial generation and being like, this is why government matters to you. Yeah. Like, we don't want people who are 98 making all the decisions for everyone else for the rest of time. Like, we need all areas of people. We need wisdom. We need ideas and freshness and all this stuff. And he just had a way of grabbing your attention. And that was when I first really started getting interested in politics and started following what was going on. However, once I had kids and then they entered the school system, I was like, wait, I don't know that I support like 3/4 of this stuff. And then I saw that the Democratic Party was really, I'm sure you've heard the phrase like 90s liberal. Like I think of like Bill Maher as a liberal, right? Like that's kind of the liberalism I was brought up with. And that is so not what it is now. You talked about people going really far to the left. And it has gone so far to the left that they are disenfranchising their own party in a lot of ways. And I know so many people just in the past 5 or 6 years that are like, yeah, I'm done. I'm conservative. I agree. Like,
I actually, you say that, I just had a conversation with somebody last week, actually here in Goffstown, a very prominent Democrat out of Manchester, who told me that he had switched parties a year ago.
Wow.
Which I was always friendly with the guy. And it'll come out, it'll come out soon, but it's not really a secret. He's making phone calls. But I asked him that question, like, what made you switch? Because he was kind of a stalwart in the Democratic Party. He was always a moderate Democrat. He was kind of a dying breed of moderate Democrats. And I asked him, like, what triggered this? And he said it was his daughter in school and the way that his own party was treating him and his daughter for not just going through the traditional system. And I think that's moved a lot of people. The kids, I'm a new father, right? I got a 2.5-year-old and a 9-week-old. Had to think about it for a second. And it definitely, like, I was already, to the right, and like having the kids was like, whoa.
Well, for me, it was like, I decided to stay home. I stayed home for like 13 years with my kiddos. I mean, they eventually entered school and all that stuff, but like, I was a homemaker. And it was put out to me that the women's right movement, all those women before me went and fought so that I could have opportunity. And the choice that I made was to stay home and like care for my family and like take care of my kids and my husband and my house. And I was like, but yeah, I'm really glad those women went before me and fought so that I could do whatever I wanted to do. Like, I want to be an astronaut, I can go do that. If I want to stay home with my family, I can do that. But the mindset and kind of being talked down to, and that like I wasted my choice, like I wasted the opportunity that was given to me because I wanted to stay home. And I'm like, I can't imagine like going to work to pay for somebody else to watch my kids when I can be home with them.
Well, it's people watch kids for a living. Let's calm down. Let's calm down.
No, don't get me wrong. Not everybody can do that.
No, I know. It's expensive.
And I was really blessed to be able to have that opportunity. But it's like, are you kidding me? I want to be with my family. I want to be home. Do you know how many people would kill to be able to do that? And I can, and it felt like wasting the choice if I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of was like the big turning point for me, was I'm like, maybe I'm not a feminist because I want to stay home with my kids.
Yeah, it's I still I work in childcare, so I was making the joke about
I know you do. I know you do.
But I do see that all the time with especially with new parents when they're coming through. That kind of struggle.
It's hard,
and it is hard. Like it's I'm in a very fortunate situation where I can take my kids to my work because my work involves watching children. But I do see parents struggle with that. You can kind of see it in their eyes, and you try to make them as comfortable as you can with the notion. But some of them don't have that. To your point, they don't have that luxury. They both parents have to work, or they're a single parent, or they got to do it. They have to do what they have to do, and that's why excellent childcare exists. No,
it does.
But that's I think it's a very valid point though about your kids really do change things.
They do. That was the shift for me.
Yeah, that was it, and that's usually so. I know we're getting towards the end of this, so I kind of want to go through. Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects. I know it's one of your favorite subjects, education, right? Because you did with your children, you did both tracks, right? So you've done the traditional public school option.
I even tried homeschooling.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, God bless the parents that can do that. I'm not built for that. I'm just not. I'm not. I honestly envy the parents that are like, just do everything at home, and I'm like, I wish my brain's just not there. I need my space. That's
why I couldn't.
No.
My children would not be served well by me being their teacher.
And that's what it came down to. So We actually started in the Manchester public school system. We lived on the north end.
With the beautiful people.
Oh,
yeah,
yes. So it was actually the Manchester school system that I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's still scary.
And this is when Common Core was really getting pushed, and like Girard at Large and all that. Like Rich Girard was constantly going on about it. That's when Matt Walsh was coming up and talking about Common Core. We looked into private school.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, probably not today, but 8 years ago, it was cheaper to buy in a more expensive town with a better school district than it was to send our kid to private school. So that's when we moved to Goffstown. And in that process, we found out my son was on the spectrum. And I have no, Goffstown serves my daughter very well. Yeah. It's a great school for her. She thrives here. My son was not. And to see your kid struggling, to see your kid not being who you know they are because of just whether it's bullying or not being like in his case, he wasn't being challenged enough. He's really smart. He was bored out of his mind here. Yeah. So we actually chose charter school. He went to the Founders Academy.
Excellent.
In Manchester.
Right there on the south end of Manchester.
Oh yeah, up until last year, and he was accepted and just started this week at Spark Academy, which is a it's like a technical bioengineering charter high school, but it's at a community college. Yeah. So he's definitely getting challenged for sure. And I'm so thankful to live in a state that is like, hey, you do what you need to do to set your kid up for success. I struggle with people who necessarily don't support all the choices a little bit. I don't think EFAs are just for rich people. I don't think we're subsidizing private education. I think we're giving people choice. Yeah. So I know people will disagree with me on that, but
and they will, and that's fine.
So totally okay.
You know, when you look at public polling, when New Hampshire adults have children, they become 15% more Republican.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, it's well, because they want the choice, they want the options, and I think, you know, one of the things that I think conservatives, and you'll experience this if you get in the House, is we're constantly getting accused of wanting to destroy public education. And
we need public education. It serves like 85% of the student population of
It is always, I believe it will always be the default option for most parents. And to your point, you know, people do select their properties based on the school district. And that was one of the things that I raised to a left-wing friend of mine. It's like, I'm selfish. I want a strong public school system. I want it to be strong because I own property, and I want my property values to go up. I'm weird like that.
There's a lot of but there's a lot of reasons to want your public school to thrive and be good, not just for the students and the kids, but yes, property values and other things.
Yeah,
it's all tied together.
Even if you assign a selfish motivation to it, the selfish motivation is still a strong public school system. And to your point, you know, I think the one-size-fit-all mentality, I think that they're losing. I think they know that they're losing that argument. And it's one of those things that, you know, that I wish the public school systems would kind of, like, if they were smart, instead of trying to just fight us on it, they would try to make their product, because they're always going to get the most money.
It's the default. It's just how it's going to be.
It's the default. They're going to get the most money. So they should make their product with the most money better than everyone else's, and then nobody will want to go anywhere else.
Well, and that's where I've always said, like, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't 100% like supportive of the financial end of school choice until I needed school choice. Yeah. And then I figured out how the funding actually worked. And I was like, oh, okay. So by sending my son to a charter school, I am actually not taking away
that's the first argument they make.
Right. I'm actually not taking away from my local public school, especially because he's on the spectrum and has a 504 and all that. I'm actually saving you a lot of money because you don't need to fund his services. Everything's being met by his current school. But for me, the thing that I struggle a little bit with, I lost my freaking train of thought.
It's okay. You know, I jump in, like, so in Ware, I have this mom there who's very active. And she has 3 kids that she homeschools. And she raised an interesting point to me. She's like, you know, Ross, I'm constantly getting attacked for homeschooling my kids by people in town. But she's like, but if I were to send my kids to the Ware public school system, I would be costing the town $75,000 a year. And I was like, wow, like, has anybody said thank you for that? You know, and I think that's kind of like where it's at. You know, in these public schools, it touches on the local control issue. Is, you know, I feel like the boards aren't very responsive to the parents anymore.
No.
You know.
It came back to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, like local school districts, I get it. They have to fight for their level of funding. I totally understand and I respect that. But like a prime example, and I've brought it up to my school board, they don't seem to be receptive to it, but my son, when he was at Founders Academy, so here in Goffstown, we have what's called Promethean boards in all of our classrooms. They're the big, huge, giant, they look like luxury TVs, but they're touch screens, and the teachers can hook their computers to it. The kids can come up and like write and do their work on it. Great, fine, whatever. They're thousands of dollars a piece. They have to be maintained. They have to have tech done to them, all that. And eventually they're going to die and you need to replace them.
Yeah.
That's just what happens. So we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars for every classroom in the Goffstown School District to have these boards. My son's charter school, all the walls throughout the school are painted with like bare whiteboard paint.
Yeah.
So instead of going up to a screen and touching things, one of the supplies you have to send in with your kid is expo markers.
Yep.
And those kids write on the walls all day long.
Yeah.
So we're talking probably a couple $1,000s in paint to paint all their classrooms in that building versus tens or possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars for these Promethean boards. I don't understand why local schools aren't saying, okay, why is it that charter schools can produce a better product for half the cost? Or why are private schools, whenever we get a student from a private school, why are they a year ahead of our kids? So instead of kind of accusing, they're taking our money, they're doing this, why aren't they picking their brains going, well, what are you doing that we're not?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is it's a competition of because they get the kids by default, right? They a lot of them just think every kid should have to go there, but they won't say that. But you look at their actions speak louder than their words.
100% they do.
And their actions are they want that. But to a point, I actually have an answer to that. It's because the other ones are optional, right? If you don't if your private school or your charter school does not perform or serve your child well, you will pull them out of there.
Oh,
you will move them out of there. And they know that. So they, instead of focusing on all these other like ancillary issues that have nothing to do with reading and writing, science, and arithmetic, they focus on a whole bunch of things that don't matter. And because they know that they're going to get that capture by default. So, that's where I actually believe that introducing competition is going to actually help public schools.
I think it will.
Yeah, because eventually they're going to wake up. And eventually they're going to go, we got to get these proficiency scores up or we're going to have any kids here. And then people are going to start asking questions about our funding. And that moment will come.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll come next year.
I don't think it will either, but
it will
I have
come.
hope it comes.
It will come, and the public schools will be better off for it when they actually start focusing on the things that parents care about.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I never understood. Like when you look at the proficiency scores, I don't know exactly what they were this past year, but in recent years past, it was like something like Goffstown has like 54% in math or something. I'm like, okay, so we have 54% proficiency in math, but we have like almost 100% graduation rate. Yeah. Like I was not book smart, had to work really hard just to like be an average student, but I know the math ain't mathin' on that one. So I just look at it, I'm like, if you want to keep sinking your ship, you can keep sinking your ship. I'll keep funding you because 85% of the kids in the state.
We're not going to stop funding you.
No, that's our legal obligation. We're going to do that. Yeah. And I want our public schools funded. But at the same time, I'm sorry, everyone should have the opportunity to be set up for success. And I'm sorry, if you can't educate my child for $21,000, and you're upset about the $5,000 that my neighbor is getting for their EFA, we got way bigger fish to fry than...
If you ever want to really have your blood boil, do the math on the per classroom cost. Because it's like $350,000, $400,000 a class. And then, and this is where I think that they're going to start losing people, then you factor in how much the teacher's getting paid. And you look at how small of a portion of that is, and you're like, where's the rest of the money? These teachers should all be making six figures. And it's like, if the teachers made six figures, you'd still have $200,000 left to pay for the room. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But anyways, we're coming towards the end of this, so let's give it bring it all back. You're running for state rep. We're super excited. So what is the pitch? What is the pitch? Like, why you? Why now? Like, we got 2 minutes. So you got to do the elevator pitch.
Ultimately, like the end game, I love New Hampshire. I am so glad I lived here. Massachusetts can stay where they are. I did not bring Massachusetts with me. I came and I acclimated, and I love the New Hampshire way of life. I love our motto of live free or die, and my ultimate goal, no matter what committee I end up on, no matter what bill I support or don't support, is to protect the New Hampshire way of life, and be as supportive of that as I can.
All right. Well, I think that's great. And I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
So I'm your host, Representative Ross Berry, and this is my guest, Shannon.
Awesome. Thank you.